sort of angel successors was certainly Golf Clash with Playdemic, and
Yeah.
I'd love to know your opinion on the mobile market at the moment. I think a lot of people are starting to think that perhaps the honeymoon period is over with mobile games, that it's now dominated by these very big companies with massive user acquisition budgets, which are kind of drowning out a lot of the smaller, more independent studios building games for mobile. Do you think that's fair
Yeah.
or not really?
Well, clearly there are some dominant titles that have been there for many years. I mean, Clash of Clans and Candy Crush have been up there for many, many years, and quite right so. I mean, they are great experiences themselves. They have a dedicated following, and that's great. But I think there's still enough room for new titles to come along. But it's a sophisticated business model now. Running games as a service is not as easy as people might think. It's not just applying the back end infrastructure and the data scientists. It's how you monetize content, acquire the users, monetize them, and retain them over time. That's become a very sophisticated process. But it shouldn't always have to rely on gimmickry. I think there's great games still have a chance to be successful. And I mean, I think Apple have been very supportive in
Yeah,
highlighting new titles that have value. And it's not all about the top grossing charts anymore. That's kind of disappeared from the App Store. You get to see good games. Hopefully, enough people get to see that. But if you look at the revenues, they're absolutely on the up. Overall in mobile, and accounting for over 70% of Apple's mobile revenue is coming from games. So it's not as though it's a dying market. It's a very crowded market, and probably for every Angry Birds, there's probably 1,000 dead birds out there. But there's still the opportunity if your game is good. The key is not to copy and try and be original.
Yeah.
And some compelling gameplay in there that people want. I mean, when people say to me, "What's the most important thing about a game?" I will say, gameplay. Technology and graphics, although vital and crucial, play a supporting role to the gameplay. You will always buy a game for gameplay rather than the graphics.
Yeah, I think looking at what we term the mobile market. There's two business models there. The business model that is favourable to investors is always going to be free to play, games as a service. And as Ian said, I'm involved in a couple of businesses that we do that, and it's really a different ballgame, literally. It's a completely different approach. And then there's the kind of premium market where you are playing a game that someone is going to part probably with some money up front for. And that is a more traditional offering. And I think the two things are different, and it's important for budding games designers, people who want to work in the industry, to understand that at the moment there are two sort of schools of thought, really, and they're both absolutely valid and justified. I mean, we're currently working on making Animal Farm, and we cannot make that game as a service because, well, we could, but we choose not to, and that's problematic because we're then into a sort of premium space, and it's a game that is going to be played on mobile devices as well as a PC and potentially consoles, and that makes it quite difficult. But we want to make that game, and we will make that game, and we will launch that game this year. But who knows what we get back in terms of a return there, because the premium market in mobile, outside of being supported by Apple and Apple's Arcade, is very, 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 very challenging, and there are a small number of outliers that produce premium games on mobile. Everything else is pretty much games as a service.